He was just a delivery driver. She, a grieving woman in a quiet house. But when she asked him to stay, a silent, forbidden connection sparked, leaving him breathless and utterly changed. The humidity clung to the late summer evening like a second skin, pressing down on Phelan Thorne as he maneuvered his beat-up Ford Taurus, affectionately known as Old Bess, through the labyrinthine lanes of the Waterstone Bluffs development. This sprawling, affluent enclave, all manicured lawns and homes that whispered of unspoken wealth, was far from his usual routes through the city's grittier, more familiar downtown streets. His final delivery of the night for Quick Bite Dispatch was to number 78 Stonehaven Crest, a name that conjured images of ancient fortresses rather than the sleek, minimalist architecture that now emerged from the twilight. At 22, Phelan carried the quiet weariness of someone who worked too many hours while chasing a distant dream. His associate's degree in sustainable building design felt a universe away some nights, especially when the scent of stale fast food clung to his clothes and the hum of Old Bess's aging engine was the only company he kept. His mind drifted, as it often did, to the towering blueprints he studied, the complex equations, a stark contrast to the simple transaction he was about to perform. His hands, calloused from years of physical labor, tightened on the steering wheel, a silent testament to the endless grind. He still had a few $100s left to save for next semester's textbooks, a constant low thrum of anxiety beneath his calm exterior. He imagined Kaylin, his older sister, already asleep in their modest apartment on Willow Creek Row, perhaps curled up with one of her dense art history tomes. He'd send her a text once he was truly done, a familiar ritual of reassurance. The house at 78 Stonehaven Crest was a study in modern austerity. Stark geometric lines, a palette of cool grays, and expansive glass panels that reflected the deepening indigo of the sky. A single, golden rectangle of light spilled from a ground floor window, illuminating a segment of perfectly manicured fescue. He parked Old Bess just beyond a meticulously pruned hydrenia bush, ensuring his weary sedan didn't mar the pristine curb appeal. The air was thick with the scent of night-blooming jasmine and the distant rhythmic chirping of crickets, a symphony of suburban serenity that felt utterly alien to him. The insulated bag, heavy with the promise of a gourmet meal, swung gently as he walked towards the front door, his footsteps soft on the paver pathway. He checked the delivery slip one last time. Elara Vance. A name that gave no hint of the storm that was about to break, or the unexpected calm that would follow. He pressed the doorbell, a soft, melodious chime that seemed to dissipate into the quiet evening. The silence that followed felt vast, almost anticipatory. Then, with a subtle click, the door swung inward. Standing in the soft halo of the hallway light was Elara Vance. She was, he judged, somewhere in her late 30s, though her precise age was elusive, hidden behind a veil of dignified composure and a quiet intensity in her eyes. Her dark, sleek bob of hair framed a face that was unadorned, yet remarkably striking, possessing a kind of raw, unvarnished beauty that transcended typical prettiness. There were faint, almost imperceptible lines around her eyes, not of age but of experience, of battles fought and perhaps lost. She wore a simple, charcoal-toned lounge ensemble that draped elegantly, hinting at a slender, almost fragile frame beneath. A subtle, elusive scent, something akin to aged leather, and a faint hint of rose emanated from her, drawing him in even as he instinctively tried to maintain a professional distance. "Good evening," Phelan said, his voice a little gruffer than he intended, the fatigue of the long day catching up to him. He extended the warm bag, a silent offering. Quick Bite Dispatch, your order. Ilara's lips curved into a polite, almost practiced smile. Thank you so much. You're truly a savior. I'd almost resigned myself to a bowl of cold cereal. Her voice was soft, melodic, with a low, resonant timbre that sent a faint tremor through him. He noticed a fleeting shadow pass across her eyes as she took the bag, her fingers brushing lightly, almost imperceptibly, against his. The contact was brief, a mere whisper of skin on skin, yet it left a tingling sensation, an unexpected surge of awareness that made him shift his weight. He was ready to utter the usual polite closing, to pivot and vanish back into the comforting anonymity of the night. A practiced dance he'd performed thousands of times. No problem at all, he mumbled, already turning, his hand reaching for the cool steel of the doorframe. The routine was a shield, a comfort. Wait, she said, her voice a little softer this time, a thread of hesitation woven into the single word. Phelan paused, his hand still suspended, his body half turned towards the exit. He looked back, a polite question etched onto his face. Ilara's gaze, unblinking, swept over him, taking in the faint shadows under his eyes, the slight slump of his shoulders under the weight of the day, the way his sandy brown hair fell across his tired brow. It was an unnerving scrutiny, as if she could see past the Quick Bite logo on his shirt, past the practiced smile, to the raw exhaustion and silent anxieties that hummed beneath his skin. "It's late," she murmured, her voice a gentle caress. "And you look like you've been driving all night, perhaps longer." He offered a small, self-deprecating shrug, a familiar gesture. "Just finishing up the last few, ma'am." She hesitated again, her eyes dropping briefly to the weighty takeout bag in her hands, then lifting back to meet his. This time, a slow, genuine smile bloomed on her face, reaching her eyes, softening their edges, making them glow with an unexpected warmth. "My husband." He used to say that delivery drivers were the true unsung heroes of the city, always there, always bringing a little comfort into the lonely hours. The word used hung in the air between them, a delicate, almost imperceptible sigh accompanying it. A quiet ache, a story etched in the lines around her eyes, seemed to settle in the space, infusing the silence with an unexpected weight. Phelan felt a sudden, profound discomfort. This was too personal, too raw for a fleeting exchange on a doorstep. His job was transactional, his life largely private. He didn't know how to navigate the unexpected intimacy of her revelation. Ilara seemed to sense his unease. She took a slow, deliberate breath, then extended her hand, a gesture that felt both tentative and strangely urgent. "Please, sit, eat with me." The words landed like soft, unexpected blows, shattering the invisible barrier between them. Sit, eat, with her? His internal alarm bells screamed. This was entirely outside the parameters of his job, a breach of every unspoken rule. He was a conduit, a service, not a dinner guest. He opened his mouth, ready to politely decline, to mumble about needing to get home, about the stack of textbooks waiting for him. But the truth was, his apartment on Willow Creek Row, shared with his pragmatic and often absent sister, would be silent save for the hum of the refrigerator. Her eyes, still fixed on his, held a strange blend of quiet desperation and a fragile hope. It wasn't a command, but a plea, delicate as spun glass, as if it would shatter if he refused too abruptly. He saw beyond the offer of a simple meal. He saw a desperate loneliness, a profound yearning for human connection in the vast, echoing silence of her elegant home. He glanced past her, into the spacious, artfully minimalist hallway. No sounds of life, no television, no music, no other voices, just the two of them, poised on the precipice of something utterly unforeseen. I I really shouldn't, he managed, his voice thin, almost a ghost of his usual tone. I have to get going. There's paperwork. The lie felt hollow, inadequate. Her smile faltered, a shadow passing over her face. Please, she repeated, her voice softer still, almost a whisper, imbued with a quiet urgency. Just for a few minutes, I ordered far too much for one person, and it feels strange to eat alone when someone has just delivered a veritable feast to my doorstep. Her gaze held his, and in their depths he saw not just loneliness, but a shared humanity, an appeal that bypassed his professional detachment and reached something profoundly human within him. He found himself unable to look away, caught in the quiet intensity of her unspoken request. He thought of his own solitary meals, eaten quickly in the car between deliveries, the empty apartment that awaited him. The decision felt heavy, a tug-of-war between ingrained habit and an inexplicable, nascent curiosity. Okay, Phelan heard himself say, the word a soft exhalation, barely audible. Just for a moment. A visible wave of relief washed over Alara's face, chasing away the shadow and replacing it with a radiant, genuine smile that transformed her, making her appear years younger, more vibrant. Oh, thank goodness, she murmured, stepping back and gesturing him inside. Please come in. The kitchen is just through here. He stepped across the threshold, the rich, aromatic scents of ginger and lemongrass from the pad thai now mingling with the elusive, refined fragrance of her home. The heavy door clicked softly shut behind him, severing his connection to the familiar night, to old Bess, to the world of schedules and predictable routines. He was inside, in a stranger's house, stepping into an unknown and unforeseen narrative. He had walked in for a minute, but a thread had already begun to weave, binding him to this quiet, elegant woman. The kitchen was a tableau of understated luxury, vast expanses of polished stainless steel and dark, lustrous wood, dominated by a formidable island crafted from a single slab of gleaming quartz. Alara placed the overflowing takeout bag gently onto the pristine surface. Phelan remained by the entryway, his hands feeling suddenly clumsy and out of place, his eyes darting across the array of high-end appliances that shimmered under the recessed lighting, looking almost untouched, like museum pieces. A wave of self-consciousness washed over him, a keen awareness of his worn jeans, the faint, lingering scent of his delivery car, and the grease stain that seemed to bloom on his quick-bite polo shirt. "Make yourself comfortable," Ilara said, her voice a soft balm, as she smoothly pulled out two sleek, high-backed bar stools from beneath the island's overhang. "I'll just get us some plates and forks. It's truly far too much food for one." She gestured vaguely at the bulging bag, a subtle invitation to partake in her unexpected bounty. Phelan hesitated for a beat, then cautiously eased himself onto one of the stools, the cool, smooth leather a stark contrast to the rough fabric of his own life. He watched her move, a quiet elegance in her every action as she retrieved pristine ceramic plates and gleaming silverware from cleverly concealed drawers. Her movements were fluid, unhurried, imbued with a quiet grace. His gaze drifted to a small, framed photograph on a nearby floating shelf. A man with kind eyes and a warm, inviting smile, his arm casually draped around Alara's shoulders. The same man, Phelan realized with a quiet pang, she had likely referred to when she spoke of her husband. The silence in the house, once merely a lack of sound, now felt heavier, infused with the subtle weight of unspoken grief, a phantom presence that seemed to linger in the air. "So," Ilara said, turning back to him, two steaming plates now laden with the fragrant, vibrant colors of pad thai, their aromas tantalizing and rich. Pad thai, spring rolls, and some vegetable dumplings. I truly hope you like Thai cuisine. She placed one plate in front of him and the other precisely opposite. "I love Thai," Phelan managed, a genuine, unforced smile touching his lips for the first time that night. The aroma was intoxicating, a welcome escape from the stale air of his sedan. She smiled back, a soft, almost wistful expression. "Good. Please dig in before it cools too much." She settled onto the stool opposite him, her gaze meeting his over the steaming plates, a silent invitation to share more than just a meal. They ate in a comfortable, almost companionable silence for a few minutes, the only sounds the faint clinking of forks against ceramic and the quiet rhythmic chewing. Phelan, initially self-conscious, found the food too exquisitely delicious to resist. He hadn't realized the depth of his hunger until the first mouthful, the comforting warmth of the noodles, the vibrant burst of flavors settling a gnawing emptiness deep within him. "This is really, truly excellent," he said after a moment, looking up at her, the words tasting genuine. "I agree wholeheartedly," Ilara replied, her eyes twinkling faintly. "It's my indulgence, my small treat to myself when I've had a particularly challenging day." She didn't elaborate, but the subtle inflection in her voice suggested that a day was a profound understatement, a gentle euphemism for something far heavier. He found himself wanting to know more, to ask about the nature of her challenging days, but his ingrained politeness and the awareness of their profoundly unusual situation held his tongue. Instead, he opted for a safer topic. "This is a truly beautiful home," he offered, gesturing vaguely around the pristine kitchen. "Very contemporary." Ilara's gaze drifted around the sleek, immaculate room, a faint melancholic expression settling onto her features. "It was his design, completely," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper, referring to the man in the photograph. "He was an architect, a visionary. He poured every ounce of his heart and soul into this house. He always said it was going to be our ultimate sanctuary." Her voice trailed off, a delicate tremor hanging in the air, weighted with unspoken sorrow. Phelan felt a wave of profound empathy wash over him. He knew instinctively that there were no words adequate for such moments. "I'm so very sorry," he finally murmured, the inadequacy of the simple phrase stark in the quiet, charged room. Ilara offered a small, sad smile, a fleeting gesture of acknowledgement. "Thank you. It's been a year. A long, impossibly long year." She took a slow, deliberate sip of water from a tall, elegant glass on the countertop, her slender fingers tracing its rim, a subconscious gesture of comfort. "He was Leo Vance. And you, if I may ask?" "Phelan Thorne." He extended a hand across the cool surface of the island, and she met it, her hand surprisingly small, cool, and delicate in his. Her touch was brief, a mere brush, yet it lingered, a faint phantom imprint on his palm. "Phelan," she repeated, tasting the name, a gentle curiosity in her eyes. "Unusual. I quite like it. It has a certain strength to it." He felt a faint flush creep up his neck, a warmth spreading across his cheeks. "It's Irish. My grandmother was fiercely proud of her heritage." "Ah, heritage," she mused, a soft smile returning to her lips. "A truly wonderful thing to hold on to. What, if I may ask, brings you to Quick Bite, Phelan Thorne? You don't strike me as a career delivery driver somehow." He chuckled, a short, self-conscious sound. No, not exactly a career path. I'm attempting to navigate my way through community college, applied science. My dream, eventually, is to work with sustainable building materials, maybe even design structures myself. This job helps tremendously with tuition and living expenses. Ambitious, Ilara said, her gaze thoughtful, her eyes holding his. And truly admirable. So many young people these days seem to simply drift without direction. It's truly good to have a purpose, a tangible goal. He felt a profound warmth spread through him at her words, a validation he hadn't realized he so deeply craved. Most people, upon learning of his job, simply saw the uniform, the temporary nature of the work. She, however, saw beyond it, saw his aspirations, his unyielding resolve. It's a slow, often frustrating process, he admitted, a sigh escaping him. But I'm getting there, one step at a time. The very best things always are, she replied, her eyes holding his, a quiet understanding passing between them. The air between them, once thick with polite distance, was now laced with something softer, a nascent connection. He found himself studying her more closely, the faint, almost invisible dusting of freckles across the bridge of her nose, the way her dark hair caught the light, revealing subtle, hidden auburn streaks. He noticed the slight, almost imperceptible tremble in her hands as she picked up her chopsticks, a hint of fragility beneath her composed, elegant exterior. They continued to eat, the conversation flowing more easily now, like a gentle, meandering stream. They spoke of everything and nothing, shared preferences for obscure foreign films, the quiet beauty of vintage architecture, the strange complexities of modern life, the elusive nature of happiness. He found himself opening up to her in a way he hadn't to anyone outside of Kalen, sharing his anxieties about the uncertain future, his quiet frustrations with bureaucratic hurdles, his small, hard-won triumphs in class. Ilara listened with an intensity that made him feel truly seen, truly heard, her unwavering gaze a silent testament to her genuine interest. She didn't offer facile advice or empty platitudes. She simply offered her full, unwavering attention, a rare and deeply precious gift. "It gets terribly quiet here sometimes," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper, her eyes fixed on the remaining food on her plate, a quiet admission of a profound truth. "Especially as the night deepens. This house, designed so meticulously for two, feels utterly cavernous now." Phelan found himself nodding slowly, a shared understanding passing between them like a silent current. He knew that feeling, the echoing vastness of space expanding around you, the oppressive weight of silence pressing in. He felt it sometimes in his own apartment, even with Kalen nearby, lost in her studies. Loneliness, he knew, wasn't merely the absence of people, it was the chilling echo of absence itself. "I understand," he said softly, and he truly did, deep in his bones. She looked up at him, her eyes wide, a raw, almost startling vulnerability in their depths. "Do you really, truly understand?" "Yeah," he affirmed, meeting her gaze directly, unwavering. "My parents live a few states away." "Kaylin, my sister, is often out with her friends or buried in her studies. And sometimes, even when you're technically surrounded by people, you just feel unmoored, adrift." A slow, profoundly sad smile touched her lips, a flicker of understanding. "Unmoored? Yes, that's a remarkably precise word for it." She sighed, a deep, resonant sound, heavy with unshed grief. "It's peculiar, isn't it, how you can possess so much, yet feel so utterly disconnected, so profoundly alone." She paused, her gaze dropping to her hands, which were now clasped loosely, almost protectively, on the cool surface of the island. Leo was everything to me, my anchor, my rock, and then he was simply gone, just like that. A sudden cruel aneurysm. One moment we were meticulously planning our dream summer trip to the Amalfi Coast. The next, there was nothing. Her voice cracked on the final word, a delicate fracture, and she swallowed hard, her throat bobbing visibly. Phelan felt a surge of empathy so profound it almost physically hurt. He wanted to reach out, to offer a comforting hand, a reassuring touch, but he held back, knowing it wasn't his place, that such gestures were for others. He simply listened, his quiet, unwavering presence a silent anchor in the turbulent storm of her grief. "I'm sorry," she whispered, shaking her head slightly, as if to dislodge the sudden, overwhelming rush of emotion. "I truly shouldn't burden you with all of this. You're simply trying to do your job after all." "It's okay," he said, his voice surprisingly firm, surprisingly steady. "You're not burdening me. Everyone needs to talk sometimes, to be heard." She looked at him, a faint surprise flickering in her eyes, then a profound, almost overwhelming sense of gratitude. "You're a good man, Phelan Thorne, a truly good man." The compliment, so sincere, so utterly unexpected, settled deep within him, warming him from the inside out. He had never been called a good man before, not in that particular way, with such quiet, unwavering conviction. He was just Phelan, the delivery guy, the struggling student, the quiet brother. The hours seemed to slip by unnoticed, dissolving into the quiet intimacy of their conversation. They talked about everything and nothing, moving seamlessly from the mundane to the profound. He found himself opening up to her in a way he hadn't to anyone outside of Kaylin, sharing his anxieties about the future, his frustrations with the bureaucratic maze of college applications, his small, hard-won triumphs in his toughest classes. Alara listened with an intensity that made him feel truly seen, truly heard. Her unwavering gaze a silent testament to her genuine interest. She didn't offer empty platitudes or unsolicited advice. She simply offered her full, unwavering attention, a rare and precious gift. As the last remnants of pad thai were cleared, Alara stood, her movements fluid and unhurried. "Would you care for some tea, or perhaps a fresh cup of coffee?" He glanced down at his watch, the glowing digital numbers a stark, almost accusatory reminder. It was well past midnight. He should have left hours ago, should have been home, tucked away in his own bed. His phone, tucked away in his pocket, felt like a silent accuser, buzzing with unspoken messages. But the very thought of leaving, of stepping back into the vast, empty night, felt suddenly unbearable, a descent into a silence that now felt colder, more desolate than before. "Tea would be wonderful if it's truly not too much trouble," he said, the words surprising even himself, an audible shift in his carefully constructed persona. He was breaking every rule, defying every expectation, and yet in that moment he felt a strange, profound sense of rightness, a calm he hadn't experienced in weeks. Alara smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile that made her look years younger, chasing away the faint lines of grief. "No trouble at all, Phelan. I have a particularly lovely jasmine tea. It's wonderfully calming, especially at this hour." She turned to the sleek, gleaming coffee maker, a quiet hum filling the kitchen as she prepared the water, her movements graceful and unhurried. He watched her, a profound sense of peace settling over him, wrapping around him like a warm blanket. This utterly unexpected intimacy, born from a simple delivery, was something he hadn't known he so desperately needed. It wasn't about anything grand or dramatic. It was about the quiet comfort of shared space, shared vulnerability, and the simple, profound act of truly listening. He felt a delicate, almost invisible thread forming between them, a connection spun from mutual respect and a quiet, profound understanding of each other's hidden aches. He had stepped into her house as a delivery driver, but he was slowly, irrevocably, becoming something else entirely. You won't believe who took his side. This is just the start. It gets stronger. The fragrant steam from the jasmine tea curled delicately around Phelan's face as he cradled the delicate ceramic mug in his hands, its warmth spreading through his palms. The silence that had settled between them in Ilara's kitchen was no longer awkward or heavy. It was a comfortable, almost companionable stillness, punctuated only by the distant hum of the refrigerator and the gentle chirp of crickets from the manicured grounds outside. Ilara, across from him, was recounting a whimsical anecdote about Leo's hilariously misguided attempts at gardening, a story that painted a vivid, tender picture of a man full of life, endearing quirks, and a profound inability to coax anything green from the soil. Her voice, softened by remembrance and affection, filled the elegant room, gently chasing away some of the earlier melancholic shadows that had clung to her. Phelan found himself smiling genuinely, a rare, unforced smile caught in the easy, rhythmic flow of their unexpected conversation. He had, at some point, ceased to register the relentless march of time, or the utterly surreal fact that he was still lingering in a stranger's impeccably designed home hours after his shift had officially ended. The initial prickle of awkwardness had long since dissolved, replaced by a comfortable familiarity, an ease that felt as if they had known each other for years, perhaps even a lifetime. It was a bizarre, almost dreamlike situation, yet paradoxically it felt more authentic, more real than many of his daily interactions in the demanding transactional world of QuickBite. He always insisted he possessed a green thumb. Ilara chuckled softly, a ghost of a laugh, shaking her head gently as if still marveling at the memory. But his definition of green was apparently any color but brown. Our very first tomato plant looked more like a scarecrow by the end of that first summer. She took a slow, contemplative sip of her tea, her gaze distant, momentarily lost in the vivid landscape of her past. Phelan felt himself drawn deeper into the quiet intimacy of her recollections. He saw not merely a grieving widow, but a woman who had loved with an uncommon depth, whose very being had been irrevocably shaped by that profound connection. The sheer tenderness in her voice when she spoke of Leo was palpable, a living testament to the enduring bond they shared, a bond that grief could not entirely sever. It was a stark, almost startling contrast to the often guarded, frequently jaded conversations he overheard among his peers, whose understanding of love often felt superficial, unburdened by the true weight of shared experience and loss. "He sounds like he was a truly remarkable man," Phelan said, his voice soft, almost reverent, imbued with a quiet respect. Ilara looked at him, her eyes a little misty, shimmering faintly with unshed tears, but radiating a genuine, profound warmth. He truly was, and he would have absolutely adored your ambition, Phelan. He always held a deep admiration for young people who knew precisely what they wanted and possessed the unyielding drive to work tirelessly for it. She paused, her gaze lingering on his face, an almost unsettling intensity in her eyes, as if she were searching for something or recognizing something hidden. He would have likely tried to offer you a position, knowing him, dragged you into his architectural firm, even if it meant painstakingly teaching you from the absolute ground up. A faint, unbidden blush crept up Phelan's neck, a familiar flush of youthful embarrassment mingled with an unfamiliar surge of pleasure. The notion of Leo Vance, the visionary architect, taking him under his wing, mentoring him, felt like a comforting, almost poignant fantasy. "That's incredibly kind of you to say," he murmured, the words feeling inadequate. The silence that descended then was different from any that had come before. It wasn't empty, but pregnant with unspoken emotions, a heavy, almost tangible weight of shared vulnerability. The faint, rhythmic hum of the refrigerator, the distant, persistent chirping of crickets outside, seemed amplified in the profound stillness. Alara's gaze, steady and unwavering, held his, a silent conversation passing between them that transcended the limitations of language. He saw a complex tapestry of emotions in their depths. A profound loneliness, yes, but also a quiet, enduring strength, a fragile, almost desperate hope. And something else, something he couldn't quite name, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere that made his breath catch in his throat, a faint tremor running through him. She leaned slightly forward across the cool expanse of the island, her dark eyes searching his, a profound question in their depths. "You know, Phelan," she began, her voice a low, husky murmur, barely a whisper, imbued with a raw honesty. "It's been an extraordinarily long time since I've had someone to just talk to like this, someone who truly, genuinely listens." Her hand, with its slender, elegant fingers and perfectly manicured nails, moved almost imperceptibly towards his, which rested, almost forgotten, on the cool quartz countertop. It wasn't a direct reach, not yet, but a subtle, almost hesitant leaning, an unspoken invitation. Phelan felt a jolt, sharp and electric, go through him, a current of unexpected awareness. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic, insistent rhythm against the profound quiet of the night. His mind, rational and insistent, screamed at him to retreat, to pull back, to remember the invisible line, the unbreachable boundary, the inherent, undeniable impossibility of this moment. She was older, infinitely more sophisticated, deeply ensnared in her grief. He was just a kid, a transient delivery driver, barely scratching the surface of adulthood. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was utterly, profoundly beyond the neatly scribbled script of his life. But his body, seemingly disconnected from the frantic clamor of his thoughts, remained utterly still, rooted to the spot. His gaze remained locked with hers, a silent, powerful conversation passing between them that transcended words, a language of raw, undeniable emotion. He saw the naked vulnerability in her eyes, the desperate, unacknowledged plea for connection, for profound understanding that went far beyond mere polite friendship. It was a deep, emotional yearning that resonated with a similar, quiet ache within him, an ache he hadn't even realized existed until this very illuminating moment. He saw the delicate, almost imperceptible lines of pain etched around her eyes, the quiet, formidable strength that had somehow carried her through unimaginable, soul-crushing loss. He saw a woman who was lonely, yes, but also incredibly resilient, beautiful in a way that defied conventional aesthetics, a beauty born of inner strength and profound experience. And in that singular suspended moment, the stark age difference, the vast social disparity, the crushing weight of circumstances that should have kept them irrevocably apart all seemed to dissolve, becoming utterly irrelevant in the face of this powerful, undeniable, unspoken connection that hummed between them. Ilara's fingers, now hovering infinitesimally close to his, trembled almost imperceptibly. Her breath hitched, a faint, almost inaudible sound, a soft gasp. The air between them crackled with an undeniable, almost palpable tension, a fragile, exquisite intimacy that threatened to shatter the quiet. The unlit candle on the console table in the hallway, unseen from the kitchen, seemed to vibrate with the sheer raw intensity of the moment, drawing light from unseen sources. I really should go," Phelan managed, the words a raw, ragged whisper, barely audible, tearing from his throat. He knew, with every fiber of his being, that he should. His head screamed it. His job, his uncertain future, every single rational thought dictated that he should stand up, offer a polite, rehearsed goodbye, and make his swift, quiet exit from this beautiful, pain-filled house. But he didn't move. He couldn't. Alara's eyes, wide and searching, never, for a single moment, left his. Her hand, still hovering tantalizingly near his, finally, irrevocably, closed the infinitesimal gap. Her fingertips brushed lightly against his knuckles, a feather-light, almost ethereal touch that sent a jolt of pure, raw electricity through him, making every single nerve ending in his body sing with an unexpected, overwhelming sensation. It was a fleeting contact, a mere whisper of skin on skin, yet it felt like a seismic shift, a profound, irreversible breaking of all unspoken rules, all societal expectations. She didn't pull back, neither did he. Her fingers, now resting fully and intimately against his, curled slightly, a gentle, almost hesitant pressure that was also an undeniable invitation. It wasn't a demand, not in the slightest, but an offering, a quiet, almost desperate surrender, a profound act of trust. Phelan felt a profound, irrevocable shift within him. The carefully constructed walls he had built around himself over years, the professional detachment, the lingering, pervasive, youthful uncertainty, all seemed to crumble and dissipate in the face of her raw vulnerability, her quiet, unwavering plea. He saw not just a lonely woman, but a shared soul, reaching out across a vast chasm in the echoing silence of her life, and perhaps, profoundly, in his own. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Words at this moment felt entirely superfluous, hollow, and utterly inadequate. He simply turned his hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, a silent, profound acknowledgement of the unspoken, a quiet, undeniable acceptance of the impossible, the forbidden. Her grip was surprisingly firm, yet imbued with an exquisite tenderness, as if she were holding something infinitely precious, something she had feared was irrevocably lost. The world outside the pristine kitchen faded away, receding into an indistinct hum. The late hour, the forgotten delivery schedule, the countless rigid rules that governed his ordinary, predictable life, all seemed to dissolve into utter irrelevance, lost in the quiet intensity of the moment. There was only the subtle, rhythmic hum of the refrigerator, the lingering, comforting scent of jasmine tea, and the utterly unexpected warmth of Alara Vance's hand, delicately yet firmly clasped in his, a fragile yet powerful lifeline in the silent, expanding universe of her grief and his own nascent, profound understanding. He simply stayed, his hand clasped in hers, the unexpected intimacy blooming in the profound stillness of the night, a silent promise hovering in the air between them.